presentation workshop. So we're still at the beginning of the life cycle of the company that we're starting, but we need to actually present with passion and create simplistic slides that gets our message across so we've got a better chance of raising money. So what I'm going to teach you in this class is how to present, which will help you to sell yourself or the product or service that you're trying to generate revenue for, or raise money. And as I mentioned before, when you're an entrepreneur and you start your own company, you're actually raising money pretty much every year until you go public or you're cash flow positive or you sell the company, you harvest the company. And so we're still in the seed stage, the early stage of our company. And so today we're going to talk about how to present. So Steve Jobs is the absolute best presenter I have ever seen in my life. And all you have to do is go online, go to YouTube and just do a search for Steve Jobs iPhone launch presentation. It is a masterpiece. It is simplistic. Every slide only has 1 or 2 or 3 bullet points. He presents from the heart and he's entertaining. And that's what you need to do. You need to be incredibly engaging and entertaining when you present. Okay, so here's some important presentation rules. Less is more. That's always the case. You don't want to ramble on for too long. A couple of words on a slide works best. Less is more. And we really can't pay attention for usually more than 10 or 15 minutes anyway. So break up those 10 or 15 minutes with a video or a joke or a break. Less is more. You always want to keep it simple, right? You never want to overcomplicate things. Even in internet technologies, Google's approach to its homepage is very simplistic versus Yahoo, which is very cluttered and messy and quite dull, to be honest. Now, the medium is more important than the message. What do I mean by that? Well, how you present is more important sometimes than what you present about. And examples of that include every single election in the United States going back to the early 1960s. Again, this is not a political course at all, just an observation that the best or the winner, the person who becomes president every 4 years, is the one that presents the best, right? The one that's the most affable. Sometimes it's not about the policies, it's just about how they communicate. And here's some great examples over the years. And I'm not going to talk about any one in particular, but I do want to highlight President Kennedy, who had the first televised debate against Richard Nixon. And Kennedy had a much better style. He was more affable. And that's one of the reasons that he won the election, among many others. Again, this is not a political course at all. Okay, so you always want to inspire when you present. You want to be incredibly passionate. If you don't know how to do that, then just watch some pros on YouTube. You know, search for Larry Ellison or Mark Benioff or Bill Gates presenting, or more importantly, Steve Jobs and Richard Branson, right? You don't want to deliver a presentation, actually. You want to deliver an experience. An enjoyable event, and Steve Jobs was the master at this, of course. You want to practice like crazy. I promise you that if you practice presenting a lot, record yourself and make sure that you come across as engaging and passionate as well. And you can become very good at this through practice. And like I mentioned earlier in this course, Steve Jobs was an awful presenter early on, but he learned how to present with passion. He studied the masters. So if you want, do a search on YouTube on Steve Jobs' first interview or first television interview, and you'll see exactly what he went through. And again, I want to stress that when you're presenting, you're never as nervous as you feel. Okay, just enjoy it. Never read a script. Just speak right from the heart. Tell a story. Stories have worked since the beginning of time. 3 words or 3 items on a slide work incredibly well. Keep it simple. 3 words. And there are a lot of great examples of this. It's used everywhere, actually. So Obama had a slogan of yes, we can. 3 words. Amazon has this cool slogan of and you're done. Nike uses just do it. Tomorrow starts here. That was one used by Cisco. A company that sells water has inspired by clouds. MakerBot has make it yourself. Uh, Al Gore had An Inconvenient Truth, the name of his movie. Three Stooges is another example. The Three Bears, the Three Hunger Game books, the Three Wise Men. Three background layers in photos. Watch for this. The best photos have three background layers, right? It's used everywhere, everywhere. Um, you want to have fun as well when you're presenting. You don't want to come across as boring. You want to change the world when you're presenting and really believe in it too. And the last thing I'll say about this is that marketing is theater. Okay, and that was a term that was coined by Steve Jobs, the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. So have fun presenting, jazz it up, make it entertaining, make it engaging, have fun yourself. And if you practice like crazy, when you actually get in front of large groups of people, you'll look forward to it. And you'll challenge yourself to kind of go off script and speak from the heart and just be very engaging with the audience. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. So TED stands for Technology Education Design or Technology Entertainment Design. Watch TED Talks if you get a chance. And keep in mind that most TED Talks are around 10, 12 minutes. Less is more. You can always get your point across in as few words as possible. And you don't want to have a mission statement. In fact, you want to have what's called a passion statement. And here's some examples. We at Apple Computer or Apple Inc. are here to put a dent in the universe, right? That's a passionate statement. Or metaphors work incredibly well. Intel basically sells a boring processor that goes in a computer, but they brilliantly created this campaign that stated that the microprocessor is the brain of the computer. Okay, they dumbed it down so people like me can understand what they do. You want to keep it simple, always, always. Remember, less is more. Customer testimonials work exceptionally well when you're presenting. Short video clips work as well. I don't have the bandwidth or time to include many videos in this course, but quite often I'll reference ones that you can just go online and watch. Okay. Props work well as well. You want to show the product. A lot of people don't show the product early on when they're presenting. And if you don't, you lose the interest of the audience within the first 30 or 60 seconds of presenting. Okay, so you want to inform, educate, and entertain. Remember, it's an experience you're giving, not a presentation experience. And I'll quote Donald Trump again. This is not a political course at all, but he did say something that resonated with me years ago. He said that if you don't have passion, you have no energy. And if you have no energy, you have nothing. Okay, so you want to always have high energy when you're presenting as well. And quite often I use my hands a lot, or when I'm presenting in front of hundreds of people, I'll walk around the stage quite a bit. It's more engaging that way, and I enjoy it more when I do that as well. And the founder of Starbucks said, it's not about coffee, it's about passion and an experience. Okay? It's about passion and an experience. That's why they can sell $4 cups of coffee, which we call $4. Okay. You always want to present with passion, right from the heart. Don't read a script. Actually, I want you to pause this video and go to YouTube and do a search for Matthew McConaughey Oscars speech. He won best actor in a movie, and he presented right from the heart. Watch it if you got a second, and then come back to me. Thanks. Right from the heart. Okay, so if you use lists, make sure you use a maximum of 3 bullet points on each slide. Again, less is always more, okay? You want to keep your slides very, very simple. Here's some awful examples of slides. And if you have time, pause this slide and read it. It's actually pretty funny. It says, I am writing down everything I could possibly say about this slide, resulting in me reading all the text out loud. Anyway, read the rest of it. It's pretty funny if you have time. Here's another example of an awful slide. How boring and dull is that? You can't read the writing. The graphics are boring. Failure. Okay, here's another one that sucks. A few words can really change the world. Less is always more. Pause this video and watch a speech that Ronald Reagan did. Go to YouTube, do a search on Ronald Reagan Berlin Wall speech. He actually went off script. when he used a couple of words that changed the world in 1989, right before the wall fell. He said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate." And those 3 words or 4 words or whatever it was changed the world. So watch that speech if you get a chance. It's very empowering. And it's probably the most important speech over the past 30 years. And so, Reagan was able to present with passion, but he also had substance to what he was presenting, kind of like Steve Jobs. Not only did he have the best presentation skills on the planet, but he had great products as well. And we'll talk about that later. Okay, us versus them creates loyalty. It always does, especially with politicians. With Ronald Reagan, it was us versus them when it came to communism, of course, and the Berlin Wall and whatnot. And it creates loyalty. And big companies do this exceptionally well. Also, us versus them creates loyalty. You want to introduce the antagonist. You want to say, who is the enemy, right? And after the bad guy is introduced, then what you want to do is you want to show the hero. And there's many examples of companies that have done this. Pause the video again and go to YouTube and do a search on 1984 Apple commercial. And it is absolutely brilliant. It cost $1 million to make and was only shown once during the Super Bowl in 1984. You can tell who the hero is. It's this woman who represents Apple, and the enemy is IBM. And watch the video, and you'll see who IBM is. Very empowering. Us versus them creates loyalty. So it worked in 1984, and it also works. It worked in 2007 when Apple had those awesome commercials. I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. If you want, you can search for those, and it's obvious who the enemy was there. In those commercials, there was a comedian with glasses. And that was supposed to be Bill Gates. And the younger cool guy was, of course, supposed to be Apple. So I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. Search for those if you want on YouTube. They're quite entertaining. Okay, so once you understand where the pain is, you can define the solution. Okay, stories work exceptionally well. I've kind of covered that. Clarity is also very important. Please pause this video and go to YouTube and do a search on people that speak with clarity, including Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or Meryl Streep, better yet. Do a search on Meryl Streep's speech and you'll see how clearly she presents. And that's why she's one of the best actresses in history. She speaks with clarity. And humor and self-deprecation, meaning making fun of yourself, works very well. You want to make eye contact with as many people as possible. Pause this portion of the presentation, go to YouTube, and watch a speech that Conan O'Brien did at Dartmouth to the graduating class. Search for Conan O'Brien Dartmouth speech. And you can see that humor works exceptionally well, but you got to practice a lot. I mean, it takes comedians years sometimes to perfect the perfect joke. But anyway, take a look at that video with Conan O'Brien. It's quite funny. He makes eye contact with everybody. He makes fun of himself, and he uses humor exceptionally well. Now, continuous presentations, try to make them 10 minutes or less if you can, and break it up with videos. Use very simple language. Make it easy to understand. Simple language like insanely great. Of course, Steve Jobs used that term quite often. Other examples are the iPod Shuffle is smaller than a pack of gum, or the iPod is the size of a deck of cards. You can visualize it. It's simplistic. Simplicity works. So less is more, and Apple is always amazing at this. If you get a chance, also stop this video and go to YouTube and watch the video, Here's to the Crazy Ones by Apple. Richard Dreyfuss narrated one version, and Steve Jobs did another version. It's amazing. It's very empowering. Repeat your important message a lot. And Apple did this quite a bit with their Think Different campaign. 2 words. And those 2 words rescued the company from bankruptcy in the late 1990s. Yeah. So a lot of great examples of those images. There's one with Martin Luther King, John and Yoko, Frank Sinatra. Lots of them. Think different. Less is more. It works very well. You also want to be very unique yourself and different in your approach. Try to stand out. Don't present like everybody else. Go off script and really speak from the heart. It works very well. It worked for Ronald Reagan with the fall of communism when he said, tear down this wall. But George Bush Jr. actually did a very good job at 9/11 speech in front of the Twin Towers. He went off script and spoke right from the heart. If you get a chance, go to YouTube and do a search for George Bush 9/11 Ground Zero speech, and basically watch it, please. But I want to summarize it because it's very powerful. He was given a kind of a canned speech at Ground Zero with his arm around the firemen, and there were a lot of construction workers, there were rescue workers, and he was giving a speech, and all of a sudden somebody far away yelled, "We can't hear you," and then he turned to that person and said, "We can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And soon the people that did this will hear from America." Whatever. Just check it out. He went off script. He spoke from the heart, and it worked exceptionally well. Okay, Big Pappy did this as well. So for those of you that aren't huge baseball fans like me, Big Pappy is an amazing home run hitter. He is the heart and soul of the Boston Red Sox. And there was a terrible terrorist event that occurred in Boston, and he when they found out who these awful people were, and put them away forever. During the first game back at Fenway Park, Big Pappy got up there and he spoke right from his heart. And he actually he used the F word, and advised you don't do that. But he did it right from the heart, to the extent that the head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, that regulates swearing and stuff on TV, sent a tweet right after Big Pappy gave his speech, basically blessing it, which I thought was really cool. Use your hands as much as you can as well. It helps you to engage with the audience. You want to make eye contact with everybody as well. Again, Conan O'Brien did a great job at that when he presented, and Obama does a good job at that as well. You want to use dramatic pauses every now and then to stress an important or controversial topic. Obama does that well as well. Be honest and sincere. Speak right from your heart. Right from your heart. Okay. Again, don't read a script. Speak right from the heart, and enjoy the presentation as well. And if you have to give the same presentation or sales pitch or fundraising pitch to many people, change it up. Change it up every time. Make it fun for yourself. Otherwise, it'll sound like you're reading from a script and you'll come across as a little bit dull. Have fun with it. Okay, so again, practice like crazy. Now, there's a guy from Toronto, which is my hometown, and named Malcolm Gladwell. And he wrote this amazing book called Outliers. And he came up with something called the 10,000 hours rule, which stipulates that if you practice something for 10,000 hours, you will be the best in the world at that profession. And so here's an image of, I'll tell you who three of them are. Bruno Mars is the singer. When he was a kid, he thought he was Michael Jackson when he was singing in Hawaii. He practiced 10,000 hours before his first album, which was great. Those three chaps singing in the basement of a tavern in Berlin are, of course, the Beatles. Tiger Woods is the golfer there. And I'm not going to tell you who the other guy is. I'm Canadian. If you don't tell me who it is, I'll be brokenhearted. It's the great one. It's Wayne Gretzky. There you go. So he was awesome. He practiced 10,000 hours before he became just an incredible expert at hockey and the best hockey player in the world. And Michael Jordan was probably the best basketball player ever. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Many people don't know that. And then he practiced 10,000 hours. And then he got to the top of the profession. And it happens with a lot of Olympians as well. They practice 10,000 hours before they go to the Olympics. So what, Chris? Well, the point I'm making here is that Steve Jobs also practiced for 10,000 hours. And again, you can do a search on his early speeches and later speeches, and you'll see quite a big difference. You can become good at this if you practice a lot.